All right. Well, welcome everyone. Thanks for joining us here today. We're ready to summarize the resources and webinars and many materials that we have gathered. Um, this is a project of Veritas, and about 3 years ago, we formed the Veritas Labyrinths in Higher Education Initiative with the intention of supporting the use of labyrinths in colleges and universities. And that could be for students as a main kind of impetus, but then also for staff and faculty and alumni and the general public that may visit the campus. So over the past 3 years, we've hosted 8 webinars. Hard to believe, but really incredible series featuring a variety of voices and perspectives. And today we thought we would simply summarize some of our learnings and webinars and resources that we have gathered um, so that you are aware of everything that's available to you. And I guess, are we ready, Jan, to turn it over to you, I think?
We
Yes,
are
Tim.
indeed.
Great. Okay.
So I'm going to have a bit of a whirlwind tour with you. Hold tight to your seats and don't forget that there will be lots of resources available to you later on when you browse at your leisure. This presentation really starts from the beginning. If you've got no resources at all, um, the first thing to do, from my own experience, is to take your time to explore the labyrinth, experience the labyrinth, and discover. And one really valuable link is the Worldwide Labyrinth Locator, um, which you will find the link here and also on the resources. And it's a wonderful link to explore, to find labyrinths anywhere in the world. And I hope that you will be able to find labyrinths near you. Um, Secondly, there are many books that have inspired me, but just thinking about the books that have inspired me from the beginning, these four, Lauren Archer's Walking a Sacred Path, Di Williams' Labyrinth Landscape of the Soul, and two books that are out of print but are available secondhand, Labyrinths for the Spirit, and last but by no means least, Jeff Saywood's Labyrinths and Mazes, absolutely packed full of history and research about labyrinths and mazes. Um, so these are just starting points. Next slide, Tim. And I hope you will regard this as another slide starting point if you're not already using it. Um, the this 2016 publication by myself and Professor Emeritus Dr. Bernard Moss was the first academic book on the subject and is absolutely packed full of ideas, um, information, projects that people have tried, research that people have carried out, and has lots of starting points in it. It's a straightforward read and something that I hope you will enjoy. And I'm delighted to say that as of 2023, it does have full access via university or college libraries that have a subscription to the book. So worth checking out, Learning with the Labyrinth. Moving swiftly on, um, still on the basis that you've got perhaps no resources, Perhaps not very much available at the moment, but all you actually need to get started are paper copies of Labyrinths, and these can be downloaded from the Veritas website or from the Labyrinth Society's website as well. So all you need is an image and a photocopier. These can be laminated or not. They can also be printed onto fabric. So you'll see one of them there is printed on fabric. And these are different patterns. So just to introduce you to these, starting at the top is the classical 7-circuit labyrinth pattern. And to the base of the image is the Chartres 11-circuit medieval pattern. You can see there marked out in 4 sections another medieval pattern, and there are quite a few labyrinth patterns that you can use. But these can be used in student diaries, in student journals, as a takeaway resource. They are in use by counselling service, in orientation sessions, by chaplaincies, in seminar groups. I've even seen them printed on drinks mats as a welcome takeaway during student orientation. So paper labyrinths where you can trace the pattern by hand. Next slide. And similar patterns, but different sorts of labyrinths to trace by hand. These are made out of wood or plastic or similar material, and the pattern is printed in or carved in, so it's very, very tactile. And one way of experiencing these is to join the Veritas free event, alternate Fridays, sometimes timed to meet American and European time zones, at other times timed to meet our friends in Australasia. So hopefully you will find a time that is convenient to you. And going from handheld labyrinths to labyrinth drawing. Now, again, the resources are available on the Labyrinth Society website, and I believe on the Veritas website as well. So what you can actually see is a labyrinth pattern that I've drawn on the ground with 2 lengths of rope. And people like Lars Howlett and myself, Lars in the States, myself in the UK, and lots of other experienced labyrinth facilitators really enjoy teaching labyrinth drawing. So that's something to consider. But you can teach yourself from books like Jim Buchanan's Labyrinths for the Spirit that I mentioned earlier, and from the handouts that are freely available. So I'm talking here about learning to draw a simple classical labyrinth, getting a friend involved, drawing it bigger, drawing it even bigger, and magic, you have got a labyrinth literally at your fingertips that you can share with other people. Next slide. And here are 2 that I was involved in making earlier. First of all, a lockdown project of my own, and you'll see that those are bottle cap tops. And I ran out of bottle caps during lockdown, so I finished off that pattern with rose petals. But there it is on the table, and now it's on the table. It's something that I was able to trace by hand. On the right, you will see somebody finishing the final circuits of a chalk labyrinth at Queen Margaret University in Musselburgh in Scotland. And there we started with the paper handouts that you're going to be able to find. We drew it bigger, and then we took the idea outdoors. Tip for here, you need to get the path widths reasonably similar. I was able to find a 15-inch long wooden spoon, and that's what people were using to make these labyrinths. Next slide. So part of what we need to think about is, what about wheelchair users? What about partially sighted or blind people who are participating as students or as faculty in our events? And I start from the basic starting point. I always ask, how can we best help you to take part in this? I don't make assumptions because I'm not the person that knows best. But the options do include, as you'll see in the picture, this is a very tactile wall-mounted labyrinth at the University of Kent. Another example are the handheld labyrinths that you've seen already, and these can be of the same design as a labyrinth for walkers. So if you imagine a wheelchair user observing a labyrinth walk on a permanent labyrinth, they can have a handheld labyrinth of the same design, which they can follow by hand. People who are blind or partially sighted may enjoy using a similar handheld labyrinth for familiarization first. There are also raised print options where you run a photocopy of the labyrinth and the result is actually a raised print format where people can actually feel the labyrinth pattern. And to find out more about this as a possible option, then talk to whoever in your student support service teams is working to support students with disabilities with practical resources. Other opportunities when we're walking a permanent or temporary labyrinth on the ground is a gently assisted walk, perhaps an opportunity for a walk solo afterwards. And lastly, an idea which I've gleaned from reading the work of the Zen Buddhist Thich Nhat Hanh, a paired experience with permission. This needs talking about in advance. A labyrinth walker, perhaps useful to have an experienced labyrinth walker here, actually walking the path, but an observer seated nearby who is taking part fully by the fact that they have a partner moving through the labyrinth. And somebody has reported to me that they had a tremendously positive experience of that labyrinth walk by using a handheld labyrinth of the same pattern as well. So you get a sense of that. Now I'm going to move on to another resource, and this is partly research, partly practical, because I am the author of an online resource which is available to you completely free of charge. And it's got the rather long title, Permanent and Landscape Labyrinths in Universities and College, an International Index. So this is in two sections, an introduction, which I do commend that you read first because it's really, really comprehensive. And and gives you a real flavour of it. That was completed in 2021. And then there is a user guide and the index itself, which was updated in September 2023. Both are available to download. What you're looking at is a screenshot of the publications page of my own website. So if we could move to the next page. And what I'd like to share with you today is a single example of the entry from the index for Brock University from our friends in Canada. I have to say, this is entirely my own work, gleaned from my own knowledge, reading, research online. Everything on the index is either in the public domain or I've been given specific information and permission to publish it, in which case it will be referenced in the end notes. So you can see here, CAN stands for Canada, Brock University, Niagara region in Ontario. And the fact that the university shares that campus with the Concordia Lutheran Theological Seminary, which means that actually two higher education institutions have full access to that labyrinth. The Brock University Labyrinth was built in 2019. You can see details of what shape it is, classical, 7-circuit, a grass path with grey and cream pavers marking out the pattern. And underneath that centre column, you can see where I have found the information confirming the presence of that labyrinth, that it is on the university's current website. In the right-hand column, you can see more information and some links which will take you, for example, to the Pedagogical Innovation Resources Annual Report for Brock University. And this is an example, as you will read here, of educational development, of pedagogical innovation at this university, so that the labyrinth is being used for mindful walking, for reflection on learning, and for well-being. So this is just one example. So how can you use the index? Well, firstly, you can use it to see if there are labyrinths near you. Secondly, you can use it for networking and for making connections. Thirdly, you can use it to find out how other people are working with labyrinths and what sort of labyrinths are being installed. You will find many links to illustrations, photographs of labyrinths, and if you would like to visit specific labyrinths, I have been as detailed as possible with the directions to the labyrinth. So if you chance to find yourself in St. Catharines in Ontario, looking at the base of that right-hand column, you can see exactly where that labyrinth is located. I just want to touch now on resources for labyrinth funding, because we've talked about permanent and temporary labyrinths. Here is a canvas labyrinth with a chair in the centre, because we knew in advance that somebody was going to need to use that resource. Now, sometimes it's possible to get grants from within universities to acquire a canvas labyrinth. Other times you may need to seek your own funding, and on the Labyrinth Society's resources page, you will find a section labyrinths in places, look at the universities and colleges section, and you'll find Professor Diane Ruderbach's presentation and application for funding as an example that you can work on. Here is a beautiful canvas labyrinth spread out ready for walkers. And I'm going to conclude with an image of the Canterbury Labyrinth. Next slide, Tim, and this is the last one. So this is the Canterbury Labyrinth on the campus of the University of Kent, Canterbury. And I'll pause here for a moment to hand on and to wish you joy in your labyrinth work, friends. Thank you very much. Now on to Melissa.
Thank you, Jan, and thank you to everyone for being here. I am here to talk about some of the resources that the Labyrinth Society has available for researchers. Well, we call them research resources, but they're really for everyone, researchers or not. This is the Labyrinth Society main page. To get to the research pages on the Labyrinth Society website, you go to Resources and Media, and you can see research on the left. There are 4 research pages, which I'm quickly going to show you 3 of them, and then we're going to spend a little bit of time on the research bibliography page because we have an exciting new interactive searchable bibliography that I want to show you. So let's go to the first page, Labyrinth Research. On this page, you can see there's an introduction to Labyrinth Research. Why should you do it? There's a link here to the flat file of the current bibliography that you can download. There are 158 entries on that. We also have a flat file for the bibliography supplement. And these are those things that didn't quite meet the criteria to be on the research bibliography, but the research bibliography committee thought were valuable and should be made available. So they're here. And then also there's a link here to an ongoing study conducted by Dr. John Rhodes using the Labyrinth Walk questionnaire. I highly recommend that as a read for anyone who is new to research, interested in using labyrinths at all, or want to conduct your own research. So that's the first page. I'm going to skip the research bibliography page because I want to spend some time there, and let's go to doing research. On this page, there's some information. Let's see. There we go. About and some resources to help you get started doing research, or if you want to shift your research interest. You can find some publications also by Dr. John Rhodes about assumptions and a framework for doing labyrinth research. There's a link to the Labyrinth Walk questionnaire, which was again developed by Dr. John Rhodes, which has been widely used by labyrinth researchers to describe the labyrinth experience. So also a resource for you. There's a link for a proposal if you want to seek funding to get or to start a research project, or to get a labyrinth on your campus. You can use that proposal format. If you're conducting research on a college campus or elsewhere, you know that you often have to have institutional review board approval. We have some help for that as well on this page. And then at the bottom, you can see a link to all of those things that are described on the page. And then the last page here, the 4th page, is simply a one page where you can access all of those things that I just showed you on the other pages without any explanation. Really nice, organized page. Let's look at the bibliography. So if you go to the research bibliography, again, you can link the flat file here if you would like to, but if you want to search and see what's out there, you can do that using this search function. So for example, let's search for some of the resources that Jan just shared with us. So I'm going to search by name since Jan is the author on a couple of those. So I'm just going to type in Jan's name. And there are 4 entries with Jan's name on it. You can see the first one is the index that she just described to us. If an item in the bibliography has a link to access it, it is in the bibliography. So you can click on the link here and it will take you to Jan's webpage where you can find her index. Also in the bibliography is Jan's book, Learning with the Labyrinth, that she talked about earlier, and you can link to that as well. And then you can see several others that Jan has written. If you also have an interest in something, I research perceived stress. So if I wanted to look and see who else has looked at stress, I could search stress. And you can see there are several resources in the bibliography where people have looked at the labyrinth as a tool for stress reduction, stress relief, and so on. Also, another great thing is if you want to filter by the type of resource, you can look for only books, you can look for only journal articles. If you want to filter by category, you can look at only mental health, you can look at curriculum, you can look at, you can filter by country and also by setting. I'm going to reset and we'll go back. All right. One more resource I would like to show you before I stop sharing my screen is a research study that's been conducted for several years in conjunction with World Labyrinth Day, which, just as a reminder, is coming up on May 3rd. Also, World Labyrinth Day in educational settings is May 2nd. For several years, the Legacy Labyrinth Project, in partnership with Dr. Jocelyn McGee at Baylor University, have conducted a large research study on World Labyrinth Day called The Big Connection. And this page is on the World Labyrinth Day website. Thank you, Tim, for sharing it. And this is your page you can go to read about the Big Connection. And you can also link here to a summary of their publications. So, and several of their publications are currently under review and coming out. So I would check back to this page frequently if you would like to see the new studies that are coming out. Would just like to say, offer an invitation for anyone, if you are interested in conducting research, participating in research, have questions about research, please reach out to any of the panelists. You can reach out to me. I'm currently serving as the research committee chair for TLS. I'm still learning that job, but I can certainly try to connect you to resources that you need. If you are conducting resources or research, I would encourage you to share that. Share that at the TLS gathering. Try to get it published. And when you have it published, please let me or others know so we can add it to the bibliography. Because the more we can share about what we're doing, the more resources we create for each other. So, thank you.
Well, thank you so much, Melissa and Jan. That's really, really incredible. When we think about labyrinths, often we just think about labyrinth walkers, but you can see there's so many different ways to engage the labyrinth, especially on a university or college campus. And that could be, labyrinth design and creation, building. It can be facilitating labyrinth walks. So Veritas hosts a labyrinth facilitator training, and you can learn how to introduce and lead group walks and workshops on campus. And then there's labyrinth keepers that are the ones who kind of maintain the labyrinth and make sure the signage is there and the brochures and that it's on the website and that the awareness of the labyrinth continues. And then now I'm thinking about labyrinth research as another way to engage people on, in the labyrinth and to actually study it. So, there's many different entryways into the labyrinth experience. And I think this is really great to see all of those. So I want to continue a little bit with some more of our resources from Veritas. So the Labyrinths in Higher Education initiative was initially a project of Veritas, but in the last year especially, we have entered into a collaboration with the Labyrinth Society, and then Jan is doing her independent work in England, and so it's really a great collaborative effort between individuals and organizations. And I am a part-time staff member with Veritas, so I'm sharing kind of our work. So on the Veritas website is a page, veritas.org/higher-ed-initiative. And on our webpage here, we have available to you the links to watch the past webinars and download PDF resources. So one of the primary ways that you can view our former webinars is this playlist that I have created on YouTube. And they are listed from most recent to oldest, 3 years ago. And I just wanted to share a little bit about each one. Last month, well, actually in November, I guess, we had the Labyrinth as a wellness tool for student mental health. And let's see here. So that webinar included stories and suggestions for and from students to support mental health. And it really was focused on how to support students. And we even had a student perspective with Julia Van Fleet. We also had a webinar called Using the Labyrinth to Enrich Dialogue Across Campus Interest Groups. And that webinar is focused on presenting the Labyrinth to diverse groups on campus. And we had Frank Fain and Dee Aker present examples and ideas about how to do that. Earlier in the year, in 2024, we had a roundtable discussion on labyrinths in colleges and universities. And this was a general webinar with mini presentations. So there's 10-minute mini presentations from 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 different presenters. So if this is your just first introduction to creating a labyrinth at a college or university, I think that's a great webinar because it presents many different presenters. And one of them is Katja Fredrickson, who included the idea of taking labyrinths on a study tour where she took students to Scotland. We have a webinar on integrating labyrinths for World Labyrinth Day. So World Labyrinth Day is held on the first Saturday of May every year, and it's originally organized by the Labyrinth Society. And this webinar was aimed at how to present the labyrinth on World Labyrinth Day. And also in Australia, they are encouraging, if you can't walk the labyrinth on a Saturday on campus, then you can also do it on the Friday, is when Australia is suggesting that World Labyrinth Day in educational settings. 3 years ago, we had a webinar with Steve Terry at Riddle College in Essex, England. And he gave a fascinating presentation about an artist in residence who brought temporary labyrinths to their landscape architecture program. And working with the students, they used organic materials to create very unique labyrinths on campus. So if you're interested in kind of a organic, creative process of bringing labyrinths in an unusual way, I think that's a really fun webinar. We also have 2 parts of this labyrinth this webinar on bringing a labyrinth to campus. So Jan Sellers and myself both presented on kind of initial ideas. If this is the first time that you are going to bring a labyrinth to campus, Jan speaks a bit about ideas for doing that, and then I give examples of the many different materials and settings and designs that are possible, because it's incredible when you actually realize how many different types of labyrinths there are out there. This is a deeper webinar, Campus Labyrinths from Idea to Reality, again with Dr. Jan Sellers. And this really goes through the whole process of, building interest and awareness, and bringing the idea to a university that may have never have any familiarity or experience with the labyrinth. And finally, this is our oldest, but still very useful webinar, because it Labyrinths in Higher Education and Inquiry. This webinar actually features professors and faculty and staff from universities that give their own case studies about how they brought the labyrinth to their campus, and their current situation and what they planned and hope to continue to do in the future. So that included someone from the University of Western Florida, an associate professor of history, a university chaplain from both Ohio Wesleyan and Middlebury College, and a professor from the University of Central Oklahoma focused on research in the Department of Kinesiology and Health Studies. So you can find that playlist. I see that Tim has put it into the chat. Thank you. And, those are 8 incredible webinars that you can go back and watch at your own time and pace. And this webinar also will be available to you, to watch and reference later. And that's become a part of that playlist. And something new that I've just created for the webinar today is a playlist of examples of labyrinths in educational settings, videos that were produced by either colleges and universities or by news outlets. I have to share my audio because I found one especially just as an example that I thought I would share that was especially interesting and touching, and it's only 2 minutes and 40 seconds. So just as Jan said, if you can get around and visit local labyrinths is a great thing to do. But if you can't visit them in your area, or there aren't other labyrinths in your area, then I think, videos like these can be really helpful to see what other colleges, and also to share the videos, in a presentation with your group. So this is a video from University of Redlands.
Hi, my name is Kendrick Brown. I'm the Dean of the College of Arts and Sciences here at the University of Redlands. I want to say welcome to the university, and I want to share with you some of my favorite places on campus. You don't see a labyrinth at a university. The fact that it's here, that you have this dedicated space for people to be able to come, to be quiet, or to experience a place that will enable them to gather their thoughts and to really focus on what's around them. I think it's just amazing, and University of Redlands has that.
It's a center point, I think, for most students on this campus, that they understand the intentionality of the labyrinth. So if I want to be there alone, walking, no shoes on, talking to myself, or just completely silent and just wanting to be to myself, I don't think anybody would look at me in a wrong way. I think a lot of people appreciate the labyrinth, and me understanding the intentionality of it, it definitely felt like a great space for me to be mindful and to release a lot of things that are going on inside.
The Labyrinth is significant to me because this is the first place that I came and experienced a gathering at the University of Redlands. It was really powerful. It was in response to things that were happening in the country at that time. And it really impressed me how the community came together, both the people who are here at the university and in the city of Redlands too.
That day was a vigil, a response to a police killing of a citizen in the summer of 2016, showing that we stand not only in solitude but actual activism and active minds from a spiritual sense.
Having everybody be willing to be seen, to be heard, to be part of community together. When you have events like that happen, it can tear a community apart. And to have everyone respond by coming together and affirming each other, that was powerful. That nourished me. That gives me hope about what society can be. So that was a really special day for me.
So I just thought just one example of the incredible ways that labyrinths create common ground on university and college campuses. And so I've updated our handout that we have of general resources. And Tim can share that PDF in the chat for you now. And this is an invitation that if you have resources or examples that are not included in our presentations or on our handouts, please email me. My email address is lars@veritas.org, and we can add your resources or videos or examples to our collection. Finally, I want to go back to the Veritas website and also give an invitation to come to our Friday handheld labyrinth walks. So if you go to veritas.org on our homepage and you scroll down about halfway, these are our Friday finger labyrinth walks. And as Jan was mentioning, they alternate between 12 noon and 4 p.m. Pacific time. Our office is based in California. And so if you are in Europe or Africa, then you can do the 12 noon probably works better for you. And if you are in Australia, Asia, or New Zealand, then maybe the 4 p.m. Times would work for you. And each week we have a different facilitator and theme for that. And again, if you're looking for the Veritas Higher Education page, if you go to Labyrinth Resources and down to Labyrinths and Higher Education Initiative, then here is where you can find the playlist of past webinars, the resource PDF. Let me share that with you here real quick. So this is the new updated Labyrinths and Higher Education PDF, and this includes the descriptions and links to all of the past webinars and also some of the materials that Jan has mentioned, the links to Veritas, the Labyrinth Society, and the Australian Labyrinth Network. Also, sources for handheld labyrinths if you'd like to purchase them for yourself or your university or college, where to purchase handheld labyrinths. There's also a smartphone app that you can download, a free app for your smartphone or tablet to trace. And there's also a tutorial on how to make your own finger labyrinth by Heather Plett if you want to create one artistically. And then some of the initial videos that I've found highlighting the use of labyrinths on campus and colleges. Also, I wanted to share that Jan has sent her selected references, which is a bibliography of books that she recommends for labyrinths in higher education. And so this is available on our webpage, and also I'll put it in the chat. And within the week, this webinar today will be edited and emailed to all participants who signed up. And so we will also include those resources to download when you receive the follow-up email to this webinar. Finally, Jan suggested that I share this about drawing labyrinths. And I think that if you are just beginning and you want to find a creative way to introduce labyrinths, is to really learn how to draw them. And there's a seed pattern that you can use to draw labyrinths very simply and easily. So I have a Discover Labyrinths YouTube channel, and there is a series of videos on drawing labyrinths, and you can learn how to draw the classical labyrinth, odd-shaped labyrinths like a star, a medieval labyrinth, a Indian Chakravayu labyrinth, a German Baltic wheel labyrinth, and other things. So if you are interested in drawing labyrinths yourself, or bringing that to college campus, then that's a fun way to engage people in learning how to create their own labyrinths.
I am so proud of this effort of partnership with TLS and with you, Jan. And I think this webinar is extraordinary. I wanted to add just a little note that we're in the process of setting up a scholarship program for our facilitator training for, I use the word youth, in a limited way, because we're looking at folks under 40 coming to facilitator training with us, because we know that sometimes the cost is prohibitive. So if you have people on your campuses who might be interested in taking the Veritas facilitator training, please email Lars at veritas.org. We're just in the process of getting that set up and going, but we'd love to have your referrals for this new program that we're starting. I just want to really thank TLS and Jan for this partnership, because it joins the resources of both of our organizations in a way that gives you a very comprehensive view of labyrinths on campuses. So many, many thanks to the panelists today and for all the information that has been shared.
Thank you, Don, and thank you, Jan and Melissa, and all the members of our Higher Education Initiative, and Tim in the background for being our tech support and chat supervisor. So we appreciate that. And if anyone here in the audience has an idea for some way that we can support your work on campus or in a institute of higher education, if you have ideas, this is kind of concluding our recent series of webinars, but as we look toward 2025, what things can we help and provide you to support either bringing a labyrinth to campus, or expanding the use of the labyrinth on campus, or maybe even reviving a lonely labyrinth that's not being used if you have one like that, or new ideas, new concepts for labyrinths, such as 3D printing or virtual labyrinths or projected labyrinths. There's a whole new way of using labyrinths that's evolving in time. So
if we have no questions in the chat, then one thing that I will add, once you've learned how to draw labyrinths, you really can use anything to draw labyrinths. And particularly in the Northern Hemisphere at this time of year, um, sadly, there is the need for food banks and for people living in refuges to be supported. And it's a wonderful community building event to create simple labyrinths out of, for example, um, gloves and scarves and woolly hats and socks. Do remember to make sure that those pairs of socks and pairs of gloves are actually attached to each other. Also, food banks. I've heard wonderful stories about student unions creating a labyrinth out of canned food. Um, so those are just a few ideas to play with.
Great. Thanks you, Jan. Yes, I appreciate that. And if it happens to snow where you are, snow labyrinths are really great ways to create temporary labyrinths on campus if you have a large lawn and some snow. Except you are creating the pathway. You're not creating the design that you walk in between. So that's another way to create a labyrinth is to actually use your shoes to plow out the pathway in the labyrinth. So. All right. Well, thank you very much. Thanks for joining us today. We appreciate your time and attention, and we look forward to seeing you at future webinars. Bye-bye.